different circumstances of the lives that we live, we mostly will not be able to come to somebody and start talking to them about the oneness of Allah. What will happen is that conversations may begin on a variety of different topics. But what we try to do is we try to work the topic around to the oneness of Allah. That's what we do. Because we know that's the goal. We need to get them to that point. If they agree on everything else about Islam, but they don't arrive there, then we have not conveyed the message. Conveying of the message ultimately means conveying Tawheed to the people. But as I said, we may have to go from a variety of different points to try to get them there. Because we have to consider ourselves, whenever we take up this very important responsibility of da'wah, we have to consider ourselves as doctors. As a doctor, you don't have a bottle of pills that every patient who comes in to see you, first thing you do is you make a prescription for them, you give them these pills. The same prescription, same pills every time. No. Each person comes, you have to find out what is their sickness, what is their illness, what are the causes, what has led to their state. Having discovered that, then you give them certain pills to help them get back to normalcy, right? And whatever final pills you need to straighten them out, you give them also along with it. And that's the same way we have to approach da'wah to non-Muslims. That we have to understand that each person has his own individual life experience. You have in front of you atheists. Some. They're few. Most people already believe in God. But you do have some atheists out there. When you deal with an atheist, you have to deal with them really as individuals. Because you need to find out, why did that person become an atheist? This is one thing. When we're giving da'wah on an individual level, it's different from giving da'wah, on a large scale, with a large scale audience, where you may just outline some general principles. But when you're dealing with individuals, then you have to look into that individual and find out what has caused this disease. You don't tell them necessarily that it's a disease, but that's how you look at it from that perspective. What has caused this disease where this person is now denying the existence of Allah? It could be tragedy in their life. It could be their upbringing. Maybe their parents were also atheists. It could be their readings, what they have read in school whilst they're in school. It could be a variety of different things which lead people to this. We need to find out what is their particular problem, and then we try to address that problem, why they got to this point. And then we try to bring them to the oneness of Allah. Similarly, Christians. Christians come in all kinds of, shades, shapes, backgrounds. Yes, there is a basic thing that they believe God is 3 in 1. But you will even find amongst them, some of them who say, no, we don't even believe that. The Jehovah's Witness, they don't believe God is 3 in 1. Right? The Mormons, So then you'll find, for example, we know normally Christians are eating pork. But then again, if you run into Seventh-day Adventists, they don't eat pork. So, you see, you can't make certain assumptions and then just come at all Christians with the same assumption. No. You have to get an idea of what these people's beliefs are. Even people who are standard Anglicans, who are supposed to be following mainstream Christianity, when you start to talk to them, about Jesus being the only begotten Son of God, you'll find many of them feel that this is metaphorical. It doesn't mean literal. You'll find many of them like this. Many of them don't believe, even in the miracles of Jesus, that these are like stories. So you'll find that when you're trying to convey Islam to them, you have to know what their individual beliefs are before you try to get the clear message across to them. So it is very important for us to call, as we said in the very beginning, to the way of our Lord with hikmah. Hikmah being wisdom, literal in translation, but meaning utilizing the methodology of the Quran with wisdom. And using good speech, not to insult them and their beliefs. This is why the methodology employed by our dear brother Ahmed Deedat is not a suitable methodology for giving da'wah to the average Christian. It is not suitable. His methodology came out of these debates. Debates where what happens in debates is that, you are successful if you're able to put down your opponent, making him appear foolish or whatever. So you will snicker, you will laugh, you will deride him, and you'll use all kinds of techniques to try to put him down in front of the audience. Now that may be fine in the case of a debate, but when you're dealing with an individual Christian, if you try to use the same methodology, it is like punching him in the nose, giving him a sledgehammer in the middle of his forehead. This is not the way. It is too rough, it is too coarse, etc. And personally, my own personal experience when I was giving da'wah to my parents, that they were at one point in Jeddah teaching there, and one of the brothers in Jeddah who used to, whenever Ahmed Deedat came, he would be accompanying him all around Saudi Arabia. He invited my parents to have dinner with Ahmed Deedat. And my parents are very, accommodating people. They're not hardcore, Bible punchers, But after their meeting with Deedat, they step, how many steps back away from Islam? I mean, I had to do a whole bunch of damage control after that, trying to bring them back again, He really lit into them, And they, as I said, there are people who are, easygoing. They were not, fundamentalists, holding all this about the Bible. They were just, average, easygoing type Christian types. Even my father told me afterwards that, that he himself didn't believe in the divinity of Jesus. That from his own childhood, he had concluded from his readings once he got a little mature, doing his O-levels, reading some philosophy and writings of philosophers, etc. He concluded that Jesus couldn't have been God. So he remained, quote unquote, a Christian, praying only to God. But in the presence of Ahmed Deedat, unfortunately, it just turned him around, Though the message of Islam is very clear, and really, he was already, you could say, 1 foot inside of Islam, with that position. But the methodology was just too rough. See, somebody after you're used to dealing with people, in this hyper kind of circumstance, shouting, laughing, deriding, it's very difficult when you sit down with a common person to just turn it off, because it's not something you just turn on and turn off like that. So, as I said, the general advice would be not to use those techniques on the average Christian. If there's a Christian out there who, already has disbelieved in Christianity, considers it really off and all these kind of things, those types, okay, yes, that material, just confirms their own beliefs, so they can read it and laugh. But for the average Christian, no. It is something very insulting. So, though we may extract from his materials information, which we may bring back to the people in a more moderate methodology, we cannot give that stuff, as it is. So beware when we try to convey the word of Allah to them. So, as I said, we must be prepared to use a variety of different methodologies. We must consider that the people have a variety of different sicknesses which we need to know about, to deal with, to treat effectively. So we may try to convey the word of Allah to them by word, speaking to them, by pamphlets, by giving them tapes, videotapes, audio tapes, taking them to others who may be more knowledgeable than ourselves, Or maybe somebody from their peer group, because you might be trying to give da'wah to somebody who's older. And, older people have a difficulty in taking information from younger people. They always